After the divorce, Sarah's life became very quiet. The house that once echoed with arguments, footsteps, and late-night conversations was now filled with stillness. At first, the silence felt like relief. There were no raised voices, no tense dinners, and no long nights of crying. But as weeks turned into months, the silence began to feel heavy, almost painful, like a reminder of everything she had lost. Every morning, Sarah woke up at 6. She followed the same routine she had built for herself after the separation. She made a cup of tea, stood by the kitchen window, and watched the streets slowly come to life. Children walked to school with backpacks on their shoulders. Neighbors rushed to work, holding coffee cups and checking their phones. Life moved forward for everyone else, but Sarah often felt as if she was standing still. She was 35 years old and worked as a librarian at a nearby school. The library was her safe place. Surrounded by books, she felt protected. Books never asked uncomfortable questions, never reminded her of her mistakes, and never judged her for her past. They listened quietly, just like she did. Her marriage to Daniel had ended 2 years earlier. It was not a dramatic ending. There was no cheating, no shouting match that finally broke everything apart. Instead, it ended slowly, painfully, through misunderstandings, silence, and emotional distance. They stopped talking about their feelings. They stopped listening. Small problems grew into large ones, and one day they realized they were living like strangers in the same house. Sarah often replayed those years in her mind. She wondered what she could have done differently. She blamed herself for not speaking up, for not fighting harder, for not understanding Daniel better. Even though the divorce was mutual, the guilt stayed with her like a shadow. At work, Sarah smiled politely and helped students find books. She laughed at small jokes and acted as if everything was normal. But inside, she felt empty. When colleagues talked about their families or weekend plans, Sarah felt a sharp pain in her chest. She usually made excuses and went home early, where no one could see her sadness. Evenings were the hardest. After dinner, she sat on the couch, scrolling through her phone or reading the same page of a book again and again without understanding it. Sometimes she thought about calling Daniel, just to hear his voice. But she never did. She knew that chapter of her life was closed, even if her heart was not ready to accept it. People around her often said kind but simple words. You are strong. You will find someone better. Time heals everything. Sarah nodded and thanked them, but deep down, she was not sure. Time was passing, but the pain was still there, quietly waiting inside her. One afternoon, while organizing old books in the school library, Sarah found a worn-out novel hidden behind a shelf. As she opened it, a small piece of paper fell out. It was yellow with age, and someone had written a short sentence in neat handwriting: "Life always gives a second chance. Sometimes, we just don't notice it." Sarah stared at the words for a long time. She did not know who had written them or when, but they felt personal, as if they were meant for her. For the first time in months, she felt something change inside her. It was not happiness, but a small, gentle feeling of hope. That evening, Sarah walked home more slowly than usual. She noticed things she had ignored before. The soft light of the sunset, the sound of birds returning to their nests, the smell of food from nearby houses. She realized that life was still happening around her, even if her own heart felt tired. At home, she placed the note on her bedside table. Before sleeping, she read it again. The idea of a second chance scared her. She did not know if she believed in love anymore. But maybe a second chance did not mean another marriage right away. Maybe it meant healing. Maybe it meant forgiving herself. Over the next few days, Sarah began to think differently. She started asking herself gentle questions instead of blaming ones. What if the divorce was not the end of her story? What if it was a lesson? What if she could become stronger, wiser, and kinder to herself? She began making small changes. She cleaned her house, letting go of things that reminded her too much of the past. She rearranged the furniture and opened the windows to let fresh air in. Each small action made her feel a little lighter. One night, as she lay in bed, Sarah realized something important. She had survived the worst part of her life. She had faced loneliness, heartbreak, and disappointment, and she was still here. Her life was quiet, yes, but it was not empty. It was waiting. As she closed her eyes, Sarah whispered softly to herself that maybe, just maybe, the silence after the storm was not punishment. Maybe it was peace. Maybe it was the space she needed to begin again, to notice the second chance life was slowly placing in front of her. A few weeks passed after Sarah found the note in the old book, and something inside her slowly began to change. She did not wake up suddenly happy, and her problems did not disappear, but her heart felt a little more open than before. The idea of a second chance stayed with her, quietly guiding her thoughts through each day. One Monday morning, the school felt different. There was a new energy in the staff room, a soft excitement that Sarah noticed while pouring herself a cup of tea. A new teacher had joined the school. His name was Michael. He was assigned to teach history, and everyone spoke about how calm and respectful he seemed. Sarah first met Michael in the library. He walked in carrying a stack of papers and looked slightly lost. When their eyes met, he smiled warmly and asked if she could help him find some reference books. His voice was gentle, and there was something honest in the way he spoke. Sarah helped him find what he needed, and they exchanged a few polite words before he left. Over the next few days, Michael began visiting the library often during lunch breaks. Sometimes he borrowed books, and sometimes he just sat quietly reading. They started talking, first about books, then about students, and later about life in general. Their conversations were simple and natural. Sarah did not feel the need to hide her past or pretend to be someone else. Unlike her previous relationships, Sarah felt no pressure. She could speak slowly, think before answering, and even enjoy moments of silence. Michael listened carefully, without interrupting or judging. That made her feel safe in a way she had not felt in a long time. One rainy afternoon, when the library was almost empty, Michael shared his story. He spoke calmly, but Sarah could hear the pain behind his words. He had been married once, and the marriage had ended after years of trying to fix something that was already broken. He said it took him a long time to accept that letting go was sometimes the healthiest choice. Divorce changes you, Michael said softly. But it doesn't have to destroy you. I learned that it can also teach you who you really are. Those words touched Sarah deeply. She felt understood. For the first time since her own divorce, she did not feel alone in her experience. She realized that pain did not make her weak. It made her human. As days passed, Sarah noticed changes in herself. She started smiling more often, not because she had to, but because she wanted to. She began staying longer at work, enjoying her time in the library. She joined a weekend book club, something she had always wanted to do but never found the courage for before. At the book club, Sarah met new people who shared her love for stories and ideas. They talked, laughed, and exchanged opinions. Slowly, Sarah learned to trust again, not just others, but herself. She realized that she was capable of building connections without fear. Michael and Sarah continued talking, but they never rushed anything. There was no pressure to define their relationship. They respected each other's pace and emotional boundaries. Sometimes they walked home together, talking about small things like favorite authors or childhood memories. Other times, they simply enjoyed the quiet. One evening, Sarah sat alone in her living room, reflecting on her journey. She thought about the woman she had been during her marriage, tired, unsure, and afraid of losing love. She compared her to the woman she was becoming, stronger, more honest, and kinder to herself. She realized that her second chance was not just about meeting someone new. It was about rebuilding her life with care and patience. It was about learning to love without losing herself. Weeks later, Michael invited Sarah for a simple coffee after work. Sarah hesitated at first, feeling the old fear rise inside her. But then she remembered the note she had found in the book. She remembered the promise she had made to herself to notice life's second chances. She accepted the invitation. The coffee was warm, the conversation easy, and the moment felt right. There was no dramatic confession or sudden promise. Just two people sharing a peaceful moment, understanding each other without words. As Sarah walked home that night, she felt calm. She did not know what the future held, and for the first time, that did not scare her. She understood that happiness was not about erasing the past, but about learning from it. Standing under the night sky, Sarah took a deep breath. She felt grateful, not just for Michael, but for the journey she had taken. Her divorce had once felt like the end of everything. Now, she saw it as a beginning. Sarah smiled softly, knowing that her heart was open again. Life had given her a second chance, and this time, she was ready to receive it with courage, patience, and hope.